In this podcast episode, I'm going to tell you about how to build an impenetrable fortress of self belief, assurance, and persistence. I'm also going to cover some other uh, email subscriber questions uh, around building your communication skills and all the things that I've learned to further my career and become, as they say, unfuckwithable with, or at least more successful in your career and life with communication, which, by the way, it bleeds to every area of your life. You communicate with your family, you communicate with your date, you communicate with everyone. So I'm going to do this. Let's get started. Welcome to Will's Personal Development Podcast, where I give you invaluable tips at no cost to you. So let's get started. Once again, this is unique to the podcast. You're not going to find this info on my YouTube or Instagram or blog. This is unique podcast specific content. So let's get started. So this actually comes from a email subscriber, Charles T. I'm not going to say his last name, but he essentially had some comments and questions. So he basically said, hey, Will, really enjoy your videos and podcasts. You've given so many invaluable tips at no cost to me at all, and I admire that immensely. Originally, I had begun to read your blog to improve my social skills and overall confidence, especially with girls, but also with people in general. It goes on for a while, so I'm going to paraphrase here. Seeing how you dealt with your struggles and never gave up reinforced my belief that you are truly a man on a mission. What I want to know is how you built this impenetrable fortress of self-belief and assurance. I've been trying out your suggestions in your article regarding the being unfuckwithable, and I've noticed some improvements, but my confidence varies from day to day. On another note, and then he goes on and so that's the question. There's a lot of different parts to it, so I want to answer this, and I'm going to do this as efficiently as possible. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to draw it out to make this a hour-long answer. And with respect to your time, I'm going to answer this as quickly as possible, whether that's going to take 2 minutes or 17 minutes. That's what I'm going to do. So first and foremost, I think his first thing is just around having that unstoppable persistence. Now, the most common way I get comments about this is usually my YouTube viewers or subscribers. Most of them are new, but when they see my channel and then they notice that I've put out like 1,800 videos, they're like, wow, like, how are you so persistent? Man, I some of them they'll respect me and say, I respect your hustle, I respect your persistence, and they'll also notice my views, and they'll say, man, you only got like 37 views. Why don't you just give up? Or, man, I really admire your hustle. So I'll get comments like that, obviously unsolicited. I'm not asking for them, and yeah, some of them are making assumptions about me and my life. And some of that's not true. So let me break it down for you. I think one thing is that they assume that I only do it for the views. And because of that, they assume, well, naturally he should have given up by now because the views aren't there. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, but I think to explain it concisely, I did initially and for a while do it just for views. And that's still part of a measure of marketing success. And so when something's not working, I've learned I have to switch it up. And I have been doing that. Been watching my new videos. They're very different. They're well edited. There's thumbnails. It's a different style because I'm trying new things. But the real answer is that your motivation has to come from somewhere beyond something that is just external. Now, external motivations definitely can be helpful. I mean, if you're making money, if you're getting the views, you want more views. But when it comes to persistence, when you're not getting that, external motivation, superficial materialistic metrics, money, views, sponsorships, those only get you so far. And so for me, Part of it comes from the passion I have to talk about interesting topics, but as I've learned over the years, the greater passion and the real why, there's that book Start With Why, which really covers the importance of a good why, is I like helping other people and making the world a better place. When I get thank you comments or messages saying, hey, your videos really impacted my life and I actually saw results and it changed my life, or it really changed the trajectory of what school I was going to go to, or something like that. And I have gotten those comments and stuff like that before, not often, but I think my favorite is one where he basically said he met his wife because of me, or I can't take full credit, but essentially, I was amazed when I saw that because I was just this guy posting positive content to the ether, getting zero comments oftentimes. And one day I got something like that, and he was basically like, "Hey, I've been following you for a while, and one of your pieces of content just got me out of the house, and I really resonated with it. And through that, I actually met my wife that day. Well, it was his fiance at the time, and I was just like, wow, I can't even believe that. But those moments, big or small, of impact, that's one real motivator for me. And so when you ask yourself, or when you're trying to find that, um, a good book to read is Start With Why, but the book summary, and I think I've talked about the book and summarized it in previous content, but the gist of it is that it profiles like several successful people and their competitors, and it shows how the people who had a good why that came from an internal place rather than external lasted longer and succeeded. So the greatest example in the book was the Wright brothers, who had very little funds or supplies, but they were just so passionate about creating a flying machine that they ended up succeeding. Versus their competitors, some of which were funded millions of dollars to build a viable flying machine. Unfortunately, they never succeeded because they were fueled by money making and fame and success. And so, because of that more internal place of motivation, the Wright brothers were able to persist. So, when it comes to motivation and where you're getting that passion and willpower to keep going, for me, it comes from those things: passion and kind of something greater than monetary stuff. But helping others is just one way. Um, there's various others. So it's you can argue a spiritual source, but I mean you can get it from various sources. Warren Buffett just really loves investing a lot. He just loved it so much that he said on interviews that he would do it even if he was paid seashells. So that was a place that it comes from. And then there's others where maybe it's helping others, maybe it's more of a civil cause, like, hey, my culture, my race right now is being discriminated against. And that's not fair in this day and age. And so my content is to change that. That isn't necessarily, it is helping people, but it's coming from a more civil rights place. So that's one of various ways you can go about it. Maybe it's an environmental cause. Hey, this planet is being destroyed by climate change and no one's stepping up. So it's helping the planet. It's preventing the world from decaying. So that's not exactly helping others. It's helping a living environment. So you can see how all of these, if you had to bucket them into a theme, it's more of a non-selfish way of doing things. Or I guess the interest one's selfish, but the others are not. So if you can find something more spiritual than just making money or views, it may help you persist for longer. And then I think another part of that is just, I've studied so many successful people, and a lot of them took a lot longer to make it than you think. It's, the saying, every overnight success is actually 10 years in the making. So because of all the biographies and memoirs I've read on that, I know that most people quit after like the first week or the first year. And so for me to stick by it, it just gives me that edge. So that's the answer to your first question, Charles. Hopefully it helped. Now, uh, there's a bunch of other things you asked or hinted at. Social skills, confidence. Well, let's start with social skills. Now, in terms of social skills, communication, I have learned the, the hard way how hard skills, technical skills like mathematics or programming, they only get you so far in your career in your life. And I found that communication skills are a soft skill that bleeds through to almost every area of your success in life. Think about it. When it comes to client presentations, presentations with your boss, communication in casual, informal ways, whether that's meeting your boss or your manager in the elevator, or building that rapport at a company barbecue, or in a more formal setting during your weekly check-ins with your boss. Those are all communication skills. And then outside of work too, whether that's communicating and building and maintaining good relationships, and uh, fixing toxic ones with your family or your friends or your dating life. That's all communication. When you're selling something, when you're negotiating something, it's all communication. And I learned that in the power of emotional intelligence towards your success, not technical ones. And so because of that, there's been a lot I've done to improve my communication. I want to at least give you a few tips before moving on there. If you're willing to invest in your communication like I am, there's various ways to do that. One way that I recently did was I have a all access subscription to masterclass.com, and I took George Stephanopoulos' effective communication course on there. He's a very successful news anchor. He's interviewed dozens of presidents. He's interfaced with presidents and very professional people or successful people hundreds of times. So he's a very effective communicator, and this course is actually well structured for anyone who works in the office like I do. So I learned a lot from that course on communication, and it was very helpful because in my day job, which is in digital marketing, I work with a lot of clients. I work with a lot of team members, and it's high pressure sometimes. It's high stress sometimes because you get these clients who are have very official titles at large companies, and it's intimidating being in a room with them. So I've realized that hey, sometimes I stumble over my words. I get too anxious, and I talk too much, or I ramble too much, and sometimes I don't keep it concise, or I don't be honest and confident and say like, hey, I don't know that, but I'll get back to you. So I try and ramble and make up an answer. And some of those things were covered in the course. So if you want to check that out, I do have an affiliate link at no extra cost to you. If you purchase through my link, I get a little commission, but it's the one product that I recommend. You rarely ever see me promote a product, and I'm very picky with promotions, but the affiliate link is willyoulaugh.com/masterclass. That's my blog with a pretty URL after it. So that's willyoulaugh.com/masterclass. But essentially, that's one way if you want to invest in your communication. And there's various other free methods or ways you can do it. You can read communication books like How to Win Friends and Influence People. But I think theory only gets you so far. You have to practice them. I found through reading those books, I read that book like 5 times. And the first 2 times I read it, this was years ago, I realized I forgot most of the book and I didn't actually implement any of the stuff in it. So you really have to actually implement it, which is a whole nother beast. And so write it down, actually work on it. Because a lot of stuff in there, like remember their names, be interested in them, be interested in their interests. I wasn't actually doing at first. So that's another big part of it. In terms of other communication skills, I was a part of Toastmasters, which is like, while they do have a paid membership, they also offer guests free attendance for like at least their first couple events. And so that was one way to improve, but I also found free ways of doing it. Just like talking to people, going to social events, clubs, hiking groups, and just practicing talking, communicating with them, um, sitting down with my boss or my manager and saying, hey, I want to do a role play and work on this. Hey, these are the things I need to improve, and forming a game plan, preparing, uh, putting yourself out there, getting jobs in the service field where you're a bartender or waiter. Those things help, but I think that the magic comes when you have both theory and practice, because there was times where I just had practice and no theory, and that didn't help. I remember I was a waiter and busser at one point, and back then I wasn't reading how to win friends and influence people and all this stuff. So I was interfacing with them, but I didn't have a game plan on how to improve or what to look for. So it was a lot of experience that was partially wasted. It still helped because I have all this reference experience on what worked and didn't, but I wasn't iterating. So having both of those things is the key here. Just one tip I want to share from the George course. I learned a lot. I took notes, but one thing that I found useful was he said that like when you go into a meeting or a business or career meeting of some sort or presentation, imagine if you had less time. So if it was a 15-minute meeting, imagine you only had 10. And ask yourself, what's the most important thing you want to get across in those 10 minutes? Now, in the meeting, you actually still have 15, but now you have a game plan and a prioritization list of what you need to say crisply and concisely. And so through that lens, I found George's course very helpful because I was able to be more concise and prepared in my work. So I really very much value your value that you're placing on communication, because I really do think social skills are huge, not just for girls, but for life in general. And unfortunately, emotional intelligence, EQ, is still highly underrated, and people wonder why they're not getting to the next level in life. It's because they're just focused on their technical skills and they just think that's it. But there's so many encounters I've had in real life where it just doesn't work out, where making someone feel good, making someone not like hate you or dislike you, it can go a long way. And there's all sorts of other nuances with that in the spirit of keeping this concise, I'm not going to get into. So let's move on to the next part. So Charles and everyone else watching, you also asked about confidence a bit, and how you kind of deal with that. So with confidence, I think that's something I struggle with too. I'm not always confident, and there's a lot of stuff that I can improve on with my confidence. I will say this though, confidence is just competence plus experience plus having like just a general set of core human traits and common sense. So what I mean by that is confidence can be, it's domain specific. So you may be inconfident at basketball at first, but once you put in 10,000 of hours of practice and growing and learning and experience, you're going to be a lot more confident naturally in basketball because you know what happens usually when you do a certain thing. So people just generally make the mistake of putting a blanket statement on what confidence is defined as, but it's not something that translates across disciplines. You may be inconfident talking to women, but you may be confident with basketball. And the real thing beyond that is essentially, well, how do you get more confident? It comes from a lot of practice and experience. And you'll screw up, but you'll learn from that. As long as you take notes, analyze, reflect, and seek to improve and have a game plan next time, you will learn from that and you'll get better at it, and your failures will happen less and less, and that's how you get confidence over time at something. So there's a lot more advice on the whole internet that talks about confidence, so I won't stress on that, but that's my concise answer, and I'm glad that you're improving on your confidence and social skills already. But that's one way you would work on that and grow. But obviously, there's nuances to that. there's ways of doing it efficiently and inefficiently. You can talk to 10,000 women, you can put out 10,000 YouTube videos and still barely get any subscribers, or you can find a game plan that's more efficient to grow your audience or get better with talking to people. Now, you mentioned how you saw me as someone who never gave up, and how I dealt with the struggles, the rejections, the issues I had, and how I'm a man on a mission. Now, finding that mission takes time. I don't think I fully found it myself, but I think part of it is I know it's there's something bigger than just, hey, and then all of a sudden I'm rich and I'm successful and that's the end of the story. No, I think part of it is I want to help other people and make the world a better place. I started with helping Asian American men, and I still do, but going beyond Asian American millennial men, I found that a lot of my blog readers and email subscribers are not in that group. And I've always wanted to help more people than that, but I had to niche down, and I still niche down to try and grow my audience and talk more specifically. But I really like helping a lot of different people with their struggles and just making the world a better place. Now, how do you build that impenetrable self-belief and assurance? First and foremost, I don't think anyone, unless they're delusional, has just 100% confidence at all times. In fact, that would make for a bad story or movie anyways. So of course there's many moments of doubt, frustration, trial and tribulation, but you don't typically see that when you see me, because you only get snapshots of my life. So having those moments is normal and natural, and you really have to kind of, it's a mixture of things, like how can you do that and should you do that, because you don't want to be the guy who's just delusional and trying to do something that will never work. If I continue to do the videos I did where I would just talk to a camera with no editing for 20 minutes, I am pretty confident that 20,000 videos later, I would still barely have any subscribers. So there is a certain level of logic to it, and no one has the right answer on the exact right amount of delusion or logic, because you have those crazy people like Steve Jobs who are crazy until they were successful, or Mr. Beast. But there are certain things that you can work on to have a sense of the logic, and then once you think, yes, this should be something I should have a persistence towards, then you can implement some of those other things I put into play. So Ray Dalio, he talks about having a group of believable people to triangulate just like how off base you are. So if let's use the Mr. Beast example. If random people on the street and classmates in school are telling him to give up on YouTube, but the mastermind he had with 3 or 4 other YouTubers that were better than them are telling him, keep going, it's just taking some time, keep going, you will succeed, then he should trust the believable people, not the random people off the street or in school. So that's one way you can kind of triangulate whether you're just completely crazy and delusional with your persistence or you're on to something. Now for me, I've seen the value and impact of YouTube, and although I still may only get a couple hundred views per video, I've seen the intangible impact from certain thank you messages or letters I've gotten, or the sometimes a video will kick off and I will make some money from it. So it's enough for me to keep going, and I do have some things there. Now, once you have that, how do you form that impenetrable belief to just keep going? You can use some of the logic from those believable people that'll help you. Some of the things I mentioned already about having a higher why, a internal why. And if you really had to pull that X factor, because I think Charles, you're sensing my belief comes from not just my YouTube journey, but also my journey with dating or my journey with life. Um, I think if you had to tap into my X factor, some of it comes from the fact that I know how hard it is, and I know that most, if not all, people would give up at the point I am now because of just how tough it is. And so the question becomes, well, what if I don't? What if I keep going? It's almost like a curiosity, but it's not just a curiosity. It's kind of like a, and then I didn't because I'm capable of that. And successful people don't do that. And what happens? And I've always wanted to be something more than average. And hey, I am showing up. I'm starting to show up whenever everyone else tapers off. So I've applied that to me going to the gym consistently 4 or 5 days a week for several years now, and a variety of other stuff. But there is certain X factor components of how I'm able to do it if I really were to dissect where it comes from. So that's something I can probably unpack in a separate episode if you want to, but that's the gist of it. So I think the last thing you mentioned was um, your confidence varies from day to day, and now how do you get through that, or how do you improve your social skills or confidence so that it's more consistent? I think it just comes down to practice for a while, but I think seeing results or progress definitely does help. I mean, you're talking to a guy who, for I think a good stretch of like 1,000 videos, did not see progress, and you don't even know about all the other YouTube channels I've attempted over the years. You're just looking at my main channel, so there's a lot of other stuff as well. And I would say when you see progress and results, that definitely helps. And then it's just practice, experience, repetition, preparation, learning, iterating, as I've said. But what happens in those rare cases where you're not seeing any results and you've done it 100 times or 1,000 times, like I have? Well, then you have to switch things up. You have to try something new. You may have to even invest in something. So for me, in certain areas, it was like, hey, like I've just been using free advice off social media, on podcasts and stuff. And free advice only gets you so far. So I've tried this for several years. I'm going to invest in a YouTube course. And it's costly, but I'm going to do it. And I've done that quite a few times for various disciplines. The most recent was I bought Matt Diavella's course, which was not cheap. It wasn't too expensive either, which is why I chose his. But he's a YouTuber that I do admire, very successful and understands filmmaking. So I bought his YouTube course, and it's been great. And I've been going through it because sometimes you got to switch it up in one way or another and learn from it and actually implement. So that's one thing. And then there's all sorts of other factors. Are you taking action on it, or are you just reading stuff and never working on it? Are you actually improving, practicing, and all this stuff? And so, when you unpack it, there may be unique use cases unique to you that you have to really unpack. For example, some people never take action on what they learn. Why? You unpack it, you realize either they're not passionate as much as they think on a hobby. Maybe they wanted to be a YouTuber, but all the work and the editing involved, actually it's not for them. Or whatever skill set it is, music production, singing, whatever. Or they find out like, oh man, I do like this a lot, but I'm just lazy. Or I'd rather just skip the work and watch TV, and then blame the course I bought for the lack of results rather than me not putting in the work. So part of it, if you really want to touch on all the uh, use cases or examples that can happen, you have to unpack for yourself. You have to be brutally honest with yourself and figure out why certain things are working. But once again, the general gist is you got to practice and put in the work and learn from your experiences. Have a good game plan, a good set of advice from believable, trustworthy people. Iterate, improve, and be brutally honest with yourself. So those are the things that I think will help you, Charles, and anyone else out there with who has a similar question. Hey, I really appreciate you writing into me via email on that, because it's just really useful and impactful for me. I don't get that many emails still. It's still a relatively small audience. So when I hear that something or someone has improved their life, it means a lot to me. So that's a nutshell of this episode for y'all. And if I were to just challenge you to do something, it would be to invest in yourself in some way. Inflation is coming. We're in a time of hyperinflation. And Warren Buffett says the best investment you can make during inflation is in yourself. Because once you develop those skill sets, no one, no government, no economy can take that away from you. If you're the best surgeon, if you're the best communicator, if you're the best project manager, people will continue to pay you what you're worth. So once again, check out that course I recommended by George Stephanopoulos on Masterclass on effective communication. You can go through my affiliate link. That's willyoulaugh.com/masterclass. If you have any other requests on things that you want to cover, please send in a question, send in your story. I'd be happy to touch on them through my vast knowledge in the realm of successful people and personal development. It would be my joy to help you out and make your life better so that you can reach your potential. That's my mission. Hopefully you can find yours. And one last thing, keep in mind the importance of soft skills, effective communication. I'm telling you, people, of course, you should invest in the obvious things as well, the technical skills. If you're a programmer and you want to get better at programming and there's a course that will help you, invest in that. Obviously, do that as well. But I think people stop there and then they don't look beyond that to the sub or related skill sets. So I do both as well. I actually just bought a course on APIs, and I'm thinking about buying a course on another programming language because it's related to my work. But don't just focus on the technical, also invest in the soft skills. Hopefully you found this valuable. Let me know if you have any feedback. I'm going to end this podcast here. Thanks for listening.